Before you scroll away, take a breath. You're tired and you don't even know why. You stay up fixing everyone else's problems. You answer every message, calm every storm, smile through every disappointment. Say yes when your entire body is begging to say no. You call it kindness, but deep down it feels like suffocation. Let me ask you something. Why do you keep helping people who would never do the same for you? Why do you believe that being good will keep you safe? Who told you that love must be earned through exhaustion? This is the truth you've been avoiding. Your kindness has a dark side. It's not saving you. It's slowly erasing you. Before we go deeper, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel. If you're drawn to understanding the hidden psychology behind your patterns, to transforming unconscious behaviors into conscious choices, this is your space. Every week, we explore the intersection of Jungian depth psychology and real life. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next insight that might shift everything. There's also a pinned comment below with resources to support your journey. Now back to this truth about kindness that changes everything. Since childhood, you were told that good people are rewarded. That kindness brings loyalty. That honesty earns respect. That generosity protects you. But look around. The kind are often the most betrayed. The generous are the most drained. The honest are the most silenced. Goodness doesn't guarantee safety. It guarantees exposure. When your kindness has no boundaries, it becomes a map of your weaknesses. People know you won't fight back. They know you'll say yes again. You thought being good made you safe, but in a world built on self-interest, it made you visible and vulnerable. Every yes you give is a quiet prayer. Please see me as good. You don't just help people. You help to feel worthy. It's not evil. It's human. You crave that moment of gratitude, that flicker of validation. Each thank you hits like dopamine. Each moment of silence feels like withdrawal. You give until you're empty. Then you resent the ones who take, but you keep doing it. Because being the good one feels safer than being unloved. The dark side of kindness isn't cruelty. It's addiction. You are addicted to being needed, addicted to the role of savior, addicted to proving your worth through sacrifice. Carl Jung understood this pattern profoundly. He called it identification with the persona. The persona is the social mask you wear, the role you play to be accepted. When you identify completely with being the helper, the giver, the good one, you lose contact with your authentic self. You become the mask, and the mask doesn't have needs. It doesn't rest. It doesn't say no. Jung warned that when we live entirely through the persona, we betray the soul. The part of you that's exhausted, resentful, suffocating, that's your soul trying to tell you something. This isn't real kindness. This is survival dressed as virtue. Here's the paradox. The more you give, the less you are valued. Not because people are evil, but because they are human. At first, they're grateful. Then, they expect. Then, they demand. You trained them to believe your help has no cost, and now you're angry that they believe you. But you didn't know you were teaching them that. You were just trying to be loved. What once was generosity became your cage. You gave so much that people stopped seeing your gifts. They only saw your availability. It isn't their betrayal you're mourning. It's the realization that your love became a transaction you never meant to start. Think of your energy as a flame. A single candle can light a room, but only if it burns steadily. When you give your flame to everyone who asks, spreading yourself across 100 wicks, what happens? The flame weakens. It flickers. Eventually it goes out, and in the darkness, no one remembers how brightly you once burned. They only notice you're no longer there. This is the master image to hold. You are the flame, not a torch to be passed endlessly, not a match to be struck and discarded, a flame that must be tended, protected, honored, because a dead flame helps no one. You wear your kindness like armor, thinking it protects you from conflict, rejection, guilt. But it doesn't shield you, it hides you. You smile when you want to scream. You nod when you want to walk away. You say yes while silently breaking inside. You don't do it because you're weak. You do it because you're afraid. Afraid that if you stop helping, you'll stop being loved. But masks don't create love. They create distance. True kindness doesn't fear boundaries. It can say no without guilt and still mean love. Jung spoke of the shadow, the part of ourselves we deny and repress. Your shadow isn't just anger or selfishness. It's also your needs, your limits, your right to rest. Every time you silence your exhaustion to help someone else, you push your shadow deeper into the dark. And the shadow doesn't disappear. It grows, it festers. Eventually it erupts as resentment, bitterness, illness, or collapse. The people you helped won't understand why you suddenly withdraw. But you will, because you finally heard the shadow screaming, "I matter too, there's a brutal math to kindness. Every favor costs time, energy, peace. Every I'll handle it is a quiet theft from your own life. You say yes to everyone, but that means you're saying no to yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't save the drowning while you're sinking. Even the airlines know this. Put your own oxygen mask first. This isn't selfish, it's survival. And survival is the foundation of every real act of love. Because if your kindness leaves you broken, it's not kindness anymore. It's self-abandonment in disguise. If this is resonating, take a moment to hit the like button. It tells me this content is landing where it needs to. And if you know someone trapped in the cycle of endless giving, share this video with them. Sometimes we can't see our own patterns until someone else holds up the mirror. You know this pattern too well. The first time you help, they're grateful. The second time, thankful. By the 10th, they just expect it. By the 11th, they're angry when you can't. Gratitude fades because the human heart adapts. But boundaries don't fade. They teach. The people who truly love you will respect your no. The ones who don't were only in love with your yes. You don't owe endless access to anyone. You are allowed to choose where your energy goes. Let's be honest. You want to be a good person, but maybe your definition of good is what's killing you. If being good means silencing yourself to keep others comfortable, maybe it isn't goodness at all. If love always costs your peace, it isn't love. It's a trade you never agreed to. Being good isn't about being liked. It's about being real. Sometimes real love looks like distance. Sometimes compassion means walking away. You can't heal people who profit from staying broken. You can't save those who use your help to avoid their own growth. Real kindness requires discernment, the courage to stop helping when help becomes harm. Jung called the process of becoming whole individuation. It's the journey of integrating all parts of yourself, light and shadow, strength and need, giving and receiving. Individuation means you stop abandoning yourself to please others. You stop performing goodness and start embodying wholeness. And here's what most people don't understand. Wholeness includes the right to say no. It includes rest. It includes protecting your flame. When you individuate, your kindness transforms. It's no longer compulsive, it's conscious. You help because you choose to, not because you're afraid not to. The reframe begins here. What if your exhaustion isn't a sign that you're not doing enough? What if it's a sign that you're doing too much for the wrong reasons? What if the discomfort you feel when you say no isn't guilt? What if it's growth? Every no is a reclamation. Every boundary is a homecoming. You're not becoming selfish. You're becoming sovereign. And sovereignty is the only foundation for genuine love, because love that requires your destruction isn't love. It's sacrifice. And you were never meant to be the altar. Return to the flame. When you stop scattering your light across 100 needs, something miraculous happens. Your flame steadies. It deepens. It becomes a beacon instead of a flicker. People who truly need light will find you, but they won't consume you. They'll sit with you in the warmth and learn to tend their own fires. This is what conscious kindness looks like. Not endless giving, mutual illumination. You're not here to burn yourself out for others. You're here to show them how to keep their own flames alive. Comment below and tell me, what's one boundary you've been afraid to set? Sometimes naming it is the first step to honoring it. And when you comment, you're not just sharing your story. You're giving others permission to do the same. So what now? Stop helping everyone and start helping with awareness. Be kind but conscious. Generous but selective. Compassionate but grounded. Kindness shouldn't be your reflex. It should be your decision. Because when your kindness becomes conscious, it becomes powerful. It stops being weakness. It becomes wisdom. And wisdom changes everything. You become the shepherd, strong enough to protect, wise enough to choose when to act. You no longer burn out to keep others warm. You light a fire that lasts. Here's your micro-action. 3 steps you can take today. First, pause before your next yes. Feel into your body. Is this a true yes or a fear-based yes? If it's fear, practice saying, "Let me think about it." You don't owe instant availability. Second, identify one relationship where you give far more than you receive. Set one small boundary this week. It can be as simple as not responding immediately or saying, "I'm not available for that right now." Notice what comes up. Fear, guilt, relief. All of it is information. Third, journal this question. What would I do with my time and energy if I weren't trying to prove my worth? Let the answer reveal the life you've been postponing. Track your progress by noticing this. When you set a boundary, do you feel lighter or heavier over the next few days? True boundaries bring relief, even if they initially bring discomfort. If you feel consistently lighter, you're on the right path. If you feel heavier, you may need to examine if guilt is disguising itself as responsibility. Your body knows the difference. Trust it. Jung believed that the ultimate task of life is to become who you truly are, not who others need you to be, not the role you play to survive, but the authentic self, whole and undivided. This process isn't comfortable. It requires you to disappoint people, to let go of identities that once kept you safe, to stop performing and start living. But on the other side of that discomfort is freedom, the freedom to give from fullness, not from fear, the freedom to love without losing yourself. You built your worth around being helpful because it made you feel loved. But you are still worthy, even when you stop fixing everyone else. You are valuable when you rest. You are enough when you say no. You are lovable even when you walk away. When you stop helping to be loved, you start loving without losing yourself. That's the freedom you've been avoiding. The silence after you stop helping. That's not loneliness. That's peace. If you've made it this far, save this video to a playlist. Not just for yourself, but for the moment when you forget and slip back into old patterns. We all do. Transformation isn't linear. Having this here when you need it could be the reminder that pulls you back to center. Let this sink in. You are not here to save everyone. You are here to live fully, to give from strength, not from fear. You don't owe anyone your depletion. The world doesn't need another martyr. It needs people who are whole, because only the whole can truly heal others. When you protect your energy, when you choose where to give, when you stop rescuing everyone else, something extraordinary happens. You start rescuing yourself. Think again of the flame. A candle that burns too fast leaves only wax and smoke. But a flame tended with care, protected from the wind, given space to breathe, that flame can burn for hours. It can warm a room. It can light other candles without losing its own light. This is the transformation. From frantic flicker to steady beacon, from exhaustion to presence, from compulsive giving to conscious love. And here's the final truth. The people who truly love you don't want your exhaustion. They want your presence. They don't need you to sacrifice yourself. They need you to be whole. When you finally stop abandoning yourself for others, you discover something astonishing. The love that remains is real. It's not conditional on your yes. It's not transactional. It's not draining. It's mutual, reciprocal, life-giving. And that love, that true love, is worth every no you had to say to find it. Repeat this to yourself, not as affirmation, but as truth. I choose conscious kindness. I help with awareness. I no longer mistake self-sacrifice for love. I am allowed to stop saving everyone and start saving myself. Because the dark side of kindness isn't evil. It's forgetting that love includes you too. So before you go back to fixing everyone else's life, pause. Feel that quiet pull to give, to please, to earn. Then breathe and remember, you are the flame. Tend it well. Protect it fiercely. Let it burn steady and true. Because when you finally stop helping everyone else, you start helping the only person who truly needed it. You. There's something Jung understood that most of us miss. He said the psychological rule is that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it appears outside as fate. Read that again. Your compulsive kindness isn't just a habit. It's an unconscious pattern playing out as your lived reality. Every time you say yes from fear, you're not helping someone. You're running from yourself. You're avoiding the question that terrifies you most. Am I enough without being useful? The universe will keep sending you the same lesson until you finally learn it. People will keep taking until you stop giving from emptiness. And every time you break your own boundaries, you teach the world that your needs don't matter. But here's the liberation hidden in that truth. The moment you make it conscious, the moment you see the pattern clearly, fate loses its grip. You stop being a victim of your own unconscious. You become the author. This is the difference between reactive kindness and conscious compassion. Reactive kindness is driven by fear, by the terror of being unloved, unseen, unworthy. It gives to avoid pain. Conscious compassion is driven by choice, by the clarity of knowing who you are and what you have to offer. It gives from strength. And here's what changes. Conscious compassion can walk away. It can witness suffering without needing to fix it. It can offer presence without offering rescue. Think of a tree. A tree doesn't give its fruit to prove its worth. It gives because it's full, because it's rooted, because the season has come. And when winter arrives, the tree doesn't apologize for having nothing to give. It rests, it draws its energy inward. It prepares for the next cycle. You are that tree. Your seasons of giving are natural, beautiful, necessary. But so are your seasons of rest. You don't owe perpetual spring to anyone. The people who love the tree don't curse it in winter. They trust the cycle, and the ones who demand fruit in every season. They never loved the tree. They loved what they could take from it. This brings us to a deeper layer of the shadow. Jung taught that we don't just repress our darkness, we also repress our light. Your inability to say no isn't just fear of conflict. It's also fear of your own power. Because when you set boundaries, when you choose yourself, when you walk away from what drains you, you step into your sovereignty. And sovereignty is terrifying. It means you can't hide anymore. You can't blame others for your exhaustion. You can't play the victim. You become responsible for your own life. This is why so many people stay trapped in compulsive giving. Not because they're too kind, but because they're too afraid to be powerful. The flame metaphor deepens here. A controlled burn in nature clears the deadwood, prevents larger fires, allows new growth. Your boundaries are that controlled burn. They might look like destruction to people who benefited from your boundlessness, but they're not destroying anything real. They're clearing what no longer serves. They're making space for what wants to grow. And yes, some people will walk away. Some relationships will end. Some identities will die. But what remains, what grows in that cleared space, will be true. It will be yours. And it will be worth every moment of discomfort it took to create it. Jung also spoke of the transcendent function, the psyche's ability to hold paradox and create something new from the tension. Here's the paradox you must hold. You can be kind and have boundaries. You can love deeply and walk away. You can care about someone's pain and refuse to carry it. These aren't contradictions. They're the synthesis that creates mature love. Immature love says, I'll destroy myself to save you. Mature love says, I'll honor your struggle while protecting my peace. Immature love needs to be needed. Mature love offers presence without attachment to outcome. This is the transcendent function at work. You're not choosing between kindness and self-protection. You're integrating both into a wiser, more sustainable way of being. Let me tell you what happens when you finally choose yourself. At first it feels wrong. Your nervous system has been wired for self-abandonment. Every no triggers guilt, fear, discomfort. Your body thinks you're in danger because you're breaking the pattern that kept you safe, even if that safety was an illusion. But if you stay with it, if you keep choosing yourself even when it's uncomfortable, something shifts. The guilt fades. The fear quiets. And in its place you find something you haven't felt in years. Spaciousness. Room to breathe. Time to rest. Energy for the things that actually matter to you. This is what freedom feels like. Not the absence of connection, but the presence of choice. Your flame, tended with care, becomes something more than survival. It becomes a forge, a place of transformation. In that steady heat, you don't just exist. You create. You don't just give. You generate. You become a source, not a resource. And there's a profound difference. A resource gets depleted. A source renews itself. When you protect your energy, when you give from overflow instead of deficit, you tap into something infinite. You stop measuring your worth by how much you can sacrifice. You start measuring it by how fully you can live. And a full life, a life lived with conscious boundaries and deliberate choices, naturally overflows into authentic service. Not service born of fear, but service born of love. True love. The kind that includes you. Before we close, I want you to understand something crucial about transformation. It's not linear. It's spiral. You'll set a boundary and feel powerful. Then you'll slip and say yes when you meant no. You'll feel the old guilt creeping back. You'll wonder if you've made any progress at all. But you have. Every time you become conscious of the pattern, even if you repeat it, you're carving a new neural pathway. You're teaching your nervous system that there's another way. The spiral means you'll revisit old wounds, but each time from a higher vantage point. Each time with more wisdom. Don't judge yourself for the repetition. That's part of the process. Individuation isn't about perfection. It's about integration. And integration takes time. Remember the flame one last time. You are not a match. You are not meant to spark once and fade. You are a candle, meant to burn for the duration of your life. Steady, warm, enduring. And the only way that candle burns through the night is if you protect it. If you shield it from the wind of others' demands. If you trim the wick of your own compulsions. If you give it the oxygen of rest, the wax of nourishment, the stillness of self-respect. Do this and your light doesn't just survive. It illuminates, it guides, it warms everyone who comes near. Not because you're burning yourself away, but because you're burning clear and true. This is the kindness that doesn't have a dark side. This is love that includes all of you. This is freedom, and it's been waiting for you all along. There's one final layer to understand about the psychology of compulsive giving. Jung identified what he called complexes, autonomous parts of the psyche that operate independently of conscious will. Your helper complex isn't just a behavior. It's a psychological structure, with its own intelligence, its own agenda, its own survival mechanism. It was built layer by layer from every moment you learned that your worth depended on your usefulness. Every time you were praised for helping, but ignored for simply being. Every time love felt conditional on performance. The complex formed to protect you, to ensure you'd never be abandoned. But now it runs automatically, triggered by any sign of need in others, bypassing your conscious choice entirely. Becoming conscious of the complex is the first step toward freedom. Notice when it activates. You'll feel a surge of urgency, a pull to fix, to rescue, to solve. Your body might tense. Your mind might race with solutions. This isn't authentic compassion responding. This is the complex, operating from its old programming. When you catch it in action, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, is this truly mine to carry? Or is this the complex trying to keep me safe in the only way it knows how? This question creates space between stimulus and response. And in that space, freedom lives. Jung also taught that what we don't integrate, we project. If you haven't integrated your own needs, you'll see neediness everywhere and feel compelled to respond. If you haven't integrated your right to rest, you'll feel guilty whenever others are working. If you haven't integrated your shadow, your capacity for selfishness and self-protection, you'll unconsciously punish yourself by serving others at your own expense. The work isn't to eliminate your capacity for kindness. It's to integrate it with everything else you are. Your needs, your limits, your desires, your sovereignty. When these parts are integrated, your giving becomes clean. It flows from wholeness, not fragmentation. Consider this. Every time you override your own no to give someone else a yes, you're creating an internal war. Part of you wants to give. Part of you knows you shouldn't. The part that gives wins, but the part that knew better doesn't disappear. It goes underground. It becomes resentment. It becomes exhaustion. It becomes the voice that says, I do everything for everyone and no one appreciates me. But here's the truth that voice won't tell you. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for the complex, for the old belief that your worth equals your utility. And until you face that directly, no amount of appreciation will ever be enough. Because the hunger isn't for gratitude. It's for permission to stop. Permission to rest. Permission to be worthy without earning it. That permission can only come from you. No one else can grant it. No one else even knows you need it, because you've hidden your exhaustion so well behind your smile. You've performed capability so convincingly that people genuinely believe you're fine. They trust your yes because you've never shown them your no. This isn't their failure. It's yours. Not a moral failure, but a failure of authenticity. You've been lying gently and constantly about your capacity, and now the lie has become your prison. The only way out is truth. The truth of saying, I can't, I won't, I need rest. I need space. I need to disappoint you so I can keep my promise to myself. The flame burns clearest when it's fed truth. When you finally speak your real limits, something remarkable happens. The people who love you adjust. They understand. They respect it. And the people who don't, they reveal themselves. They protest. They guilt you. They tell you you've changed, and they're right, you have. You've changed from someone who abandons themselves to someone who doesn't. And if they can't love that version of you, they never loved you at all. They loved their access to you. There's a difference. One is relationship. The other is extraction. Your boundaries illuminate which is which. Jung believed that the goal of life is the realization of the self, capital S. Not the ego, not the persona, but the totality of who you are. The self includes your light and your shadow, your strength and your vulnerability, your capacity to give and your need to receive. Compulsive kindness is an ego defense. It's the small self trying to control how others see you. But the self doesn't need to control perception, it simply is. When you stop performing kindness and start embodying your full humanity, you move from ego to self, from fragmentation to wholeness, from fear to presence. This is individuation in action, not becoming someone new but becoming fully yourself. And yourself includes the right to choose, the right to rest, the right to say no without explanation or apology. So here's your final invitation. Tonight, before you sleep, place your hand on your heart. Feel it beating. That heart has been working your entire life without you having to prove anything. It doesn't beat harder when you're good or slower when you rest. It simply beats, steady, faithful, unconditional. That's how your worth actually works. It's inherent, not earned, not maintained through service, not proven through sacrifice. You are valuable because you exist. The kindness you've been giving to everyone else, it's time to turn it inward. To give yourself the same grace, the same patience, the same unconditional acceptance you've been offering others. When you finally do, the flame doesn't just burn steady, it becomes radiant. And that radiance, born of self-love, not self-abandonment, is the light the world actually needs. There's a question you need to sit with, even if it unsettles you. What if the people you're trying to save don't actually want to be saved? What if your help, offered with such good intentions, is actually preventing their growth? Jung understood that suffering has purpose. Not all suffering, but the kind that comes from facing our own limitations, our own consequences, our own choices. When you rush in to rescue someone from that necessary pain, you're not helping them. You're stealing their initiation. You're robbing them of the very experience that would make them whole. This is the hardest boundary to understand. The boundary of allowing others to struggle. Your helper complex will scream at you. It will flood you with images of their pain, with guilt, with fear that you're being cruel. But there's a difference between abandonment and allowing. Abandonment says your pain doesn't matter. Allowing says, your pain matters so much that I trust you to move through it. I trust your capacity to grow. I won't insult you by assuming you're too weak to handle your own life. Think of a butterfly struggling to emerge from its chrysalis. If you cut the cocoon to help it, the butterfly's wings won't develop properly. It will never fly. The struggle is what creates the strength. Your compulsive helping is the knife that cuts the cocoon. You think you're being kind, but you're creating dependence. You're teaching people that they can't survive without you. And worse, you're teaching yourself the same lie, that they need you more than you need your own peace, that their growth is more important than your rest. That love means self-destruction.